Hello and welcome back to DevTube. In this video, we're going to talk about our first experience in participating in a hackathon that was hosted by none other than Microsoft themselves. So to start off, why don't you, Farhan, go over how we found the hackathon and how we planned for it?
So, devpost.com has a huge list of upcoming hackathons and hackathons currently happening, whether it's online or in person. And at devpost.com, we found out the Microsoft Hackathon for Social Justice, and we decided to start participating in it. And how we plan for the hackathon. So the first step we did was to ideate. Ideation is actually one of the hardest things to do because it's hard to create some entrepreneur type ideas, because basically in a hackathon you're setting yourself up as an entrepreneur, trying to create solutions to problems that no one has solved before. And once during the ideation process, we basically listed a list of topics that we potentially wanted to work on. And after we listed out the topics, we narrowed it down to one. And for our hackathon, we decided to create Tutor First, and Tutor First is basically a web application that is designed to connect tutors to students for free. And once we decided the idea, we planned out technologies, a backend framework, which was for us Node.js. Front end, we decided to use CSS, HTML, coupled with some Bootstrap. And additional backend technologies, we decided to use Microsoft Azure's Cosmos DB database, as well as the MongoDB database, and we connected them together through Microsoft Azure's API for MongoDB.
So for the routine, we actually didn't follow the corporation style routine that usually goes, where a programmer might push some code and then another programmer might review that code and then make like a pull request into their GitHub. And that's sort of how major companies do it. But since it's just a 3-man group and we're going to be working for a short time, we all need to be present and be coding live. So in order to combat that, we used LiveShare, which is an extension that VS Code has. So we had used VS Code as our code editor. And with the LiveShare extension, we're actually able to type and write code all at the same time. So it's basically like the Google Docs, but for coding. And the cool features were really how we were able to share one server, share one terminal, and then make commands and do everything in one environment. So that's basically how we used LiveShare. And after every session of coding, we'd push to GitHub, and we used GitHub as our version control manager. So that's where we saved and stored all of our code. And then in addition to GitHub and LiveShare, we also kept a list of goals for the next session, which helps because what you don't want to do is come into the next session not knowing what to do. So then you'd have to plan during that session, which is not something you want to do. At the end of a session, you just want to plan out what you want to do for the next session. And then at the end of a session, you just want to plan out what you want to do for the next session. And then at the end of a session, you just want to plan out what you want to do for the next session. And then at the end of a session, you just want to plan out what you want to do for the next session. so you're not wasting any time ultimately. And then at the end, this wasn't a routinely based thing, but towards the end, we had to move our MongoDB data into Microsoft Azure's service, and we used their Cosmos DB, which is a database for NoSQL data, and we used um, so we basically transferred our MongoDB data into Azure. And yeah, that's basically uh, how our routine was day to day. And I believe we actually met 2 days per week, 2, 3 days per week. Uh, and yeah, we had, I believe, 3, 4 weeks of that. And that's how we came to make Twitter first.
So now for the live demo and the pitch. For our pitch and live demo, we actually had no idea what to do as this is our first hackathon, and we were looking online trying to see what was right and what we had to do. We also spoke to people who competed in hackathons before, and from gathering what was given to us by them, um, we thought, hey, why don't we create some sort of small animation? And we tried to create a small animation, but it just didn't work out just because all the animation softwares online were like $500 million for like one day.
Yep.
So what we did was we made small cartoons and we posted them. We put them on a slide, and we try to give a story of a person who would use our service or our web app. And through the and I we believe that through the story we can actually grab the judge's attention and get the judge's appeal or like their fascination with our project. So which is why we went with that route. And then on top of that, we also tried to give a small live demo. That did not go well, but we'll be speaking more on that later. So yeah, I would say when trying to do a live demo or pitch, try to be a bit unique. Try to put some personality into it because these judges are going to be seeing presentations and whatnot throughout the day if they're very unlucky, and they don't want to be seeing that. They want to see something that's fresh. So try to be unique with it, and that's how we were unique. We tried to essentially create an animation and give a story.
So in this section, we're going to be talking about what to do and what not to do in a hackathon. And our first tip goes, it's related to the pitch itself. So the tip is as follows: don't use localhost if you're presenting. Use a third-party hosting service instead. And the reason why is because you never know what could go wrong with your local server. And as Mo mentioned in the last section, uh, during our pitch, it actually crashed. Our server crashed. It was frozen, and we didn't want to quit the server and then restart it because we didn't know if it was a fault in our code or if it was the server itself. But after the meeting, I did restart and it was working fine. So there wasn't an issue with our code necessarily, but it was the server itself. So maybe it was because I was running a lot of apps during the meeting, or maybe it was because of the meeting itself. We were using Microsoft Teams to communicate with the judges and the other participants. And Microsoft Teams is basically like Microsoft's version of Zoom. And yeah, so I know Farhan mentioned we used Azure to deploy, and it was there for some time. But it was only there during uh, the end portion of the hackathon. After the hackathon uh, ended, our subscription ended too. So it was basically taken down, and we'd have to pay for the service if we wanted to continue hosting on Microsoft Azure. So instead of some free alternatives, or like the alternative that we usually use for free hosting would be Heroku, and that's a pretty good secure way of hosting your app. Um, yeah, and that's basically the first tip. Don't use a local host if you're presenting. You never know what could happen. So use a third party hosting service. But fortunately, before the pitch, we actually got the chance to make a video. Each participant, each team got to make a video showcasing their project. And all the judges did see our project work. They told us not to worry about it. But I think it probably did have like a negative impact because uh, you want to be prepared. And with that, why don't you, Mo, lead into our second tip?
So our second tip is if you have a functionality that's already well built and that you can easily incorporate into your web app, please use that. Do not try to make your own version of that functionality or function. Uh, we learned the hard way. Uh, for our Tutor First website, we try to create a calendar kind of booking system. And for the calendar booking system, we obviously needed a calendar and we needed to sort times and stuff like that. It was a very big task, and we just couldn't do it. We kind of made a dumbed down version of it, but I would say if we were to go back and do it again, to use Google Calendar or use Microsoft Calendar, some sort of calendar service that's already out there. And in general, this just goes with the idea that you should use ser- services or functionalities that are already available to you from third party services instead of making your own. Try to focus more on your idea and trying to like execute it more than making these intricate functionalities. Like if there is something that's available out there, use it, and if not, you obviously got to make it. So yeah, that's the tip that I would say is if there's functionality given to you by third party services, use that instead of making your own. Now, Farhan, would you like to go into the third tip?
All right, so the third and final tip is to make sure that you better adhere to the idea that you come up with when initially planning out, and you stick to the idea and make sure your idea is robust. I think another flaw that we had when being part of this hackathon and making our web application was to focus on implementation. Now, during a hackathon, unlike if you were to do a side project where you could spend as much time as you wanted, unfortunately, you don't have unlimited time during a hackathon. You have, like most hackathons actually happen uh, as 2 day or 3 day hackathons, or even like 24-hour hackathons. Fortunately, in one way, Microsoft's hackathon for social justice was good because we had like I would say 2 or 3 weeks from the time we started. However, we also were limited in a sense because we were balancing our hackathon with our schoolwork, and because of that, and as we were like sticking to implementation, our web application wasn't uh, as good as we wanted it to be. Instead of actually focusing on implementation, like for instance, don't waste time making a login system because judges will be assuming that there will be some sort of login system. And instead of that, just focus on the meat of your application. So, like in our case, we created a we created Tutor First to help students and tutors connect for free. Let's focus on whatever is necessary to allow the connection between tutors and students to happen, whether it's setting up the video conferencing service or setting up perhaps a gradebook system so that students can track progress, using any other APIs out there to help you, like Mo mentioned, using APIs when needed. Just basically focus on the meat and don't focus on the fluff. And that way you can make sure you stick to your idea and you have your best chance of your idea being appealing to the judges.
Okay, so now it's for the fun section, our final section, and we're going to be talking about what prizes were offered and which prizes we personally chose. So I believe the first uh, place prize was $5,000, and uh, they also got to choose prizes as well, each team member, and then second and third place also had cash prizes, but then it wasn't 5,000. It was a bit lower than 5,000. Uh, Unfortunately, we didn't get first, second, or third, but we did make it as finalists out of quite quite a large pool of participants. So we're
Yeah, we
proud of
made
that accomplishment.
we so there was first, second, and third place, and there was three honorable mentions. So if you kind of think about it, we were fourth, fifth, and sixth. But yeah, it was still a hard thing, to become a finalist.
Yeah. All right, right. I completely forgot. We did make it as we got honorable mentions. I don't think every finalist got honorable mentions either, right?
They did.
Or did
No, if
every?
you if
It's
you were
They
if
did.
you were
if we're in the
yeah
top six, you're
A
either first,
finalist.
second, or third, or an honorable mention.
yeah. So
Oh,
if
I
you were a
see. Yeah.
finalist, you were guaranteed 500, and from then on, uh, based on how good your project was, you were either first, second, or third.
Yeah. Yeah. So we got $500 in cash prize, so that's still good. And then they also gave us the option to choose a prize from their online store. So it was basically Microsoft swag, and I remember when we actually got on a call to decide which prizes we wanted to choose, and I remember at first Farhan and I wanted to get selfie drones because it's technology and we're nerds, we like technology, but then Mo said Mo already has like some sort of drone, and he says that he barely uses it, and that made us think that, oh yeah, we're probably not going to use it. So Farhan and I ended up choosing a Microsoft bag, and Mohammed, you chose a jacket, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. So there were like multiple things. There was like a North Face jacket. Then like a North Face. I would say like a rain jacket. I forgot what it was, but they had like Microsoft Azure logos or Microsoft HoloLens logos all over them. I believe that the back the backpack that Isfar and Farhan got has a Microsoft logo written across the bag as well. Uh, there were nice prizes, nice things to have along with the $500. And I think as far as pulling, as far would you like to show
Yeah,
your backpack? Yeah,
yeah, it's pretty
I
neat.
think I should have went with the backpack. The jacket isn't that nice, but yeah, that's the backpack right there.
Has the Microsoft logo.
That's the
I
one I
think
got
it's
too.
probably reversed. Yeah,
Yes.
Farhan and I both got this. It's a pretty neat bag. I
Yeah.
mean, bag, bag, not back. So yeah, this is what I'm gonna be taking next. No, not next semester. We're still remote, guys. Um, so we're gonna be. Hopefully, we get back on campus in the fall of 2021. Um, here's to hoping. Mo, do you want to show what you got?
Fortunately, I can't because that it's far away right now. But just imagine a North Face jacket with with the Microsoft logo on the arm. But yeah, I think that's all we have to say about our first experience for the Microsoft Hackathon. It was a nice experience, and what we did, we learned a lot based on what we did, and we'll be using this for our future hackathons. And hopefully, from our experience, you guys learned as well what you guys should do on your first hackathon or in your hackathons to come. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe as it does help the channel. Like and share. And thanks for watching. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.